And welcome back, everyone. We're about to get started with our next leadership talk, and we have with us again a renowned leader who is an IAS officer of the 1989 batch Rajasthan cadre, and he's someone who's worked extensively and also provided leadership at the middle and the senior roles as well. That being said, he's also led the government initiatives of reviving PPP in national highways. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us none other than Shri Rohit Kumar Singh, Secretary, Department of Consumer Affairs. Please put your hands together and let's have a thunderous round of applause to please help me welcome on stage none other than Shri Rohit Kumar Singh. Thank you very much, sir, for joining in. And thank you for your august presence with us at the 17th edition of the India Digital Summit. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bureaucrats are essentially very boring people, and especially if you call them at 4 p.m. on a working day, it can get very dangerous. So you are at your own risk, but since the organizers have called me, I'll try and do justice to the responsibilities anyway. I'm basically a person with technology background before joining the IAS. And even in my career in the IAS, I've followed technology in various ways, whichever department government assigned me to work in. So technology is my first love. And that's why when I saw the word digital, I immediately accepted the invitation. And that's why I'm here for. So I was told that this is a very young crowd, and they don't know what the government is all about. So I've got a government file just to be familiar with how do we work. So we don't work on fancy devices like many of you have. We work on these things. But we also keep track of what is happening around the world because we are the policy people. So we have to give our input to the cabinet, to our minister, to the Prime Minister's office on what is the new thing in policy that the government should do, because what is changing and how we should try and adapt to the changes. I mean, I don't need to tell you that things are changing fast, especially in the digital world. And the whole change thing is totally technology driven. And I always, since the person who introduced me told you about my love for public-private partnership, I am in great awe of the word P, the letter P. And I think what is driving the change, a lot of P's involved, and they've become very predominant when we develop new systems, when we develop new policies. First of all, since we work for the government, it's the people. So whatever we do, the first thing we have to think as to how it's going to benefit the people of India. And that's the most important P. And then the process, and then the partnerships with the government have, the policies, and patents, and many things. So I think most of our work revolves around the Ps. And the last but not the least is this public-private partnership. How the government system should engage with the private sector so that we converge and work for the betterment of society. I'm not asking you to do charity. You have to make profits. You have to make reasonable profits. I think reasonable is a key word. But we have to keep in mind what it is doing for the country, what it is doing for the public. The year was 1997, and I went from Rajasthan cadre, as was mentioned. I was Director of Information Technology. So when I joined, the department was called Department of Computers. So when you go there, you realize that, is that what is going to signify my work? Because Department of Computers, computer is a device. So I remember Bhairav Singh Ji Shekhawat, who then went on to become the Vice President of the country. He was our Chief Minister, and he was also Minister of my department. So I went to him, I said, sir, ये विभाग का नाम चेंज करना पड़ेगा। बोले क्यों, क्या हुआ, ठीक तो चल रहा है। मैंने कहा सर ये फोकस जो हमारा है ये कंप्यूटर पे, ऐसा लगता है कि हम कंप्यूटर खरीदने के लिए ये विभाग है, जबकि हम एक सेक्टर में काम कर रहे हैं। एंड दिस इज माइंड यू इज 1997। सो ही सेड कि क्या रखना चाहते हो। मैंने कहा सर इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी सेक्टर है। तो उनको कुछ ज़्यादा मज़ा नहीं आया, उन्होंने मेरी ओर देखा कि ऐसे ही बच्चा है पता नहीं क्या। फिर मैंने कहा सर एक मिनट, मैंने कहा सर देखिए जो कृषि विभाग है दैट इज़ नॉट डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ ट्रैक्टर्स, दैट इज़ डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर। तो वी यूज्ड टू कॉल हिम बाबा। बाबा को समझ में आ गया एंड ही सेड डू इट। सो आई एम जस्ट ट्राइंग टू टेल यू, अनलाइक योर स्मार्ट बॉसेस दैट यू हैव एज CEOs, you know, we have people who have a robust common sense, but you have to speak that language to convince them to take decisions that in the long run will benefit the country. So as I said, this was 1997 and the internet had just arrived, and we did a conference in Jaipur just on internet in 1998, I think. And how it has transformed since then. I also went on to become the Secretary Information Technology as a state and many assignments here in Government of India. How it has changed from just provider of information to interaction to transactions, and now we are on the verge of transformation. I think that is the journey of the technology which is driven by internet. First it was just we would publish things to inform people that we do this company does that, government does that. And then interaction. We started interacting with people who were looking at the websites. We took the feedback. And then the big thing of transaction, in which India is now the world leader, whether it is financial transactions or otherwise transactions. But we are yet to fully realize the last milestone, which is transformation. IT enabling on an as-is basis is important. But what are you achieving out of it? Is deploying technology is just the output, but what is the outcome? Are we improving lives? Are we improving things? Are we improving the way citizens are engaging with the government? I think that is where we are on the verge of that threshold, whether it's a company or whether it's government, and that transformation has begun. And if we catch on to this, if we ride this wave, I think India is on to much, much better things. Why India is the key? 1.4 billion. Nobody has that market. Nobody has so many internet users. I think the data published by one of your organizations is 50% of the population is using internet. Now there are issues of content, there are issues of language, there are issues of user interface. And if we, in fact, we should not look from the blinkers of what your market is or your client is. I think we should have the whole world view of the whole country, maybe the whole world. I remember Honorable Prime Minister keeps telling us, you know, have this whole of government approach. So when he told us the first time or 2 years back, we thought it just a slogan. We didn't realize that how important it is and how we are now incorporating in our everyday work. I'll give you an example. I'm Secretary Consumer Affairs. My main job is to protect the interest of the consumer. I also handle Bureau of Indian Standards. I also handle the test houses. So in terms of quality assurance, we have to ensure that we are offering the best possible quality product to the consumer. Now, essentially regulatory in nature. But we have a minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal. I'm just coming from his meeting. A very sharp, one of the sharpest persons I've ever worked with in my whole 34 years of career. So he's the Minister of Commerce, Industry, Textiles, Food and Public Distribution, and Consumer Affairs. What does he do? He calls all 5 of us secretaries every Friday for a chat, which I think you have a fancy name for it, the fireside chat. So we don't have fire. I think sometimes he breathes fire, but otherwise there's no other fire. So we sit and we see that how across departments Are there any issues? He's also textiles minister, sorry, I forgot. So there is 5 secretaries. And we see that how, so sometimes there is a conflict between ease of doing business and protecting consumers' interest. So whenever I see a representation from the consumers' organizations, I also see, I also evaluate. I hope in our overzealousness, we are not crossing the line so that what we do becomes an impediment to business. Many people here have worked with us. Another example, the telephone, mobile phone industry came to us and said, कि sir, label का size बहुत बड़ा हो गया है. And the phone packing size is reducing, and your labeling requirements have become so huge that it is going beyond the box. तो इसका कुछ करिए. And the consumer activists, we called a joint meeting. They said, नहीं sir, इसका नहीं कर सकते. Consumer को कैसे पता लगेगा अंदर क्या है? So there are requirements from my ministry, there are requirements from Environment and Forest Ministry, there are requirements from other ministries, and it's a huge level. So we let them sit across the table, and we said, ki, if anybody is going to buy a mobile phone, 10,000 rupees plus, maybe he has a scanner in his phone. So we said, okay, let's just print 3 things on the box: the MRP, the price, the contents of the box, and the country of origin. Everything else can be in form of a QR code, and it worked. So it solved the problem of the industry. It also satisfied the consumer rights group. So this is what we call the whole of government approach. I remember about 10 days back, Honorable Prime Minister called all of us, all the secretaries and ministers, and we had like a 4 or 5 hour session outside office. And he told us very specifically that don't think you are secretary to a department. You are secretary to Government of India. So any of your decision, have a bigger picture, look at the bigger picture, and then take that decision. Because what you decide is going to affect cuts across sectors, and that is why you should be more prudent, you should be more vigilant in whatever decision. Don't be over enthusiastic and just look at the silos in which you are working. Have a bigger picture. I think that's true for the industry also, and that it is working. I'll give you another example of how Gati Shakti, the GIS-based platform of infrastructure layers, has done tremendous work. It has helped tremendously planning new infrastructure projects. I have worked in highway sector for 7 years. I was joint secretary in the ministry and then member finance in National Highways Authority. And we know how tough it was before you start a new project. The project from Delhi to Jaipur, which got inaugurated about 4 or 5 days back by Honorable Prime Minister, which has reduced the distance to 3 hours. When we were planning that, we said we will not expand the Delhi-Jaipur-Udaipur segment because there are shops and it will have huge cost in terms of land acquisition. So I went to Mr. Gadkari, who was our minister, he's still the minister, and I said, sir, let's go for a new alignment through underdeveloped areas. So one is we will do this faster, and we were looking at Delhi-Mumbai expressway. The second is we will be going through these areas, and as a effect, which is some kind of a multiplier, and these areas will also develop. And he said, yes, go ahead. He takes decisions like this. And then we planned this alignment, but then we realized we didn't have information on the utilities, the water lines, the electricity lines, many other layers, the contours. I wish Gati Shakti was existing then, and we could have saved on implementation time by maybe 8 months, 9 months. So I think Gati Shakti is a master example, a great example of how the whole of government approach, as pushed by Honorable Prime Minister, has helped departments work together. Another is this G20 engagement. Now, G20 has various streams from finance to tourism to culture to whatever you have. And he's put us all together. And our G20 engagement so far has been successful, at least in my opinion, because we are all working together. Otherwise, we are so much used to working on silos that it becomes an impediment. Now, other than 1.4 billion people, what is special that India has And I don't know how much of you read the Economic Times of yesterday and today, or how much of you watched the Global Business Summit of Economic Times. The Prime Minister used a term, which is a term by Mr. Taleb. He says we are anti-fragile. Anti-fragile or fragile, I don't know what's the right pronunciation, but I'll call it anti-fragile. What is anti-fragile? Anti-fragile is, you're strong, you are resilient, you are robust, you can absorb the shocks, but it doesn't stop here. After the shock, you bounce back and you provide a better delivery, a better solution. You are better than what you were before the shock. So I think the COVID crisis, the Ukraine geopolitical conflict, the many other things which are happening across the world have proven that India now is anti-fragile, and we have this amazing capacity to bounce back. Look at how we managed the petroleum product availability despite the US and the whole NATO banning the supplies from Russia. We said, no, we have to get supplies. It is my country. We are sovereign. We decide who we get it from. You don't decide. And by the way, they were getting it from back door. And decisions like this, when you stand on your 2 feet, when you get out of that colonial mindset and you say, no, this is right for India and this is what we will do, and then that is what is anti-fragile and resilient, and you bounce back. I think the Ukraine crisis happened exactly a year back. I remember we were all in our office rooms and suddenly we get call from the Prime Minister's office that 5 of you come, and then this has happened, and you create a framework, a monitoring strategy, because we get a lot of supplies from there. So in terms of wheat, sunflower oil, and many things on which India is dependent on that region. And you manage this by having alternatives, by having alternate channels. The products supply was being hurt, the cost of transportation, which is logistics, was getting bad. And 5 of us were made to sit together in a room and you create a strategy. And India, the prices should not go high. And I'm very happy to say that we managed to absorb the shock to a great extent. The prices of pulses have remained what they were in last February. The prices of my favorite subject, onions, have remained constant. So we managed, but it is all because we were pushed into sitting together and saying that you have this whole of government strategy. Now, volatility, disruption, whether in your industry, whether in the government domain, is bound to happen. And with the rapid pace of technology development, they will happen faster. You will see disruptions every day. I mean, this ChatGPT, look at how it has changed. And I was told on day 5 by one of my overseas friends, Rohit, look at this. What do you think of this? So I went to the site and I was amazed at the kind of response that it was giving. By the way, artificial intelligence is not new. I can tell you firsthand, before joining the IAS, I was working for a US company. I don't know how many of you know about it. It's an old company. It's called the Bell Labs. Then AT&T acquired it. It was called the AT&T Bell Labs. And then many things happened. So I used to work in the company called Bell Core in New Jersey. So it was Bell Communications Research. We would do research for all the 9 baby bells, as they were called. They were the telecom companies spread across America and Canada. And when I was doing my master's there, prior to that, we had a course on artificial intelligence, a 602 level course, as they're called. And we would write a program in a language called Prolog. It was programming logic. And my assignment on my thesis was to write a software which can converse with you. So you input a sentence and it would give a reply back. Very basic. So it was a rule-based system which would apply based on whatever information that it had, and it put it in context. My professor, I still remember her name, Professor Susan Connery. She's now 86 years old. I asked her, she said, Rohit, just wait for the memory to become cheap and the computational power to accelerate. And then you will see there's so many uses of artificial intelligence and how true she was. I called her up 2 weeks back. She's 86 now, and I reminded her of that conversation, and she said, yes, this was bound to happen. I'll read out something to you. About 5-6 days after ChatGPT became popular, I went to it and I said, I have a son who's successful and lives away from us overseas. And the parents are in late 50s. So we love him, but we also have this pain of not being able to live with him. So I inputted these 4 things on ChatGPT, and I said, write a poem for me. And I'll read out the poem for you, which came in like 3 seconds. And then I sent it to my son, who himself is an algorithm-based techie, and he also liked it. He doesn't like things very easily. So it says, this poem is coming in 3 seconds. I inputted these 4 things. Old parents, successful son, lives away, love and pain combination, just these 4 parameters. And this writes, can I read it? Okay. So it says, in distant lands we lay our heads, but in our hearts our child is wed. Though miles apart, our love remains a constant flame forever unchanged. We miss his smile, his joy and laugh. We miss his voice, his tales and gaff. We miss his touch, his warmth and care. We miss him so much, it's more than fair. We watch the sun rise and set. Thinking of him, we can't help but fret. We wish to hold him to see his face, but distance keeps us in this place. We are proud of him, his achievements high. We are grateful for his wings that fly. But with each step he takes away, our heart ache more each day. Though time and distance may intervene, our love for him will always gleam. We'll wait for him till we hold him tight. Our love for him will forever be bright. I mean, this is an amazing set of poem, which came out in like 1 second. So I'm just trying to emphasize the power of conversational AI. And it's not just poems and the paintings from Dali. It's much more beyond that. I don't know how many of you know government is building something on top of ChatGPT for interfacing with the government for farmer schemes. So you input something in Hindi, कि मेरे को ये किसान बीमा मिलेगा कि नहीं. So it converts it into text, then it sent to that database, you get a reply in writing, then it also seeks you the choice of the language. Suppose you say it's in Tamil, so it will convert the response in Tamil and speak out. Then you further interact with it. So I'm saying the uses are not just these emotional poems for the only child you have, but there are many other applications with which you can make use of it. I came across some, and I'll want to share this with the brilliant set of people that we have. Drug design. Any drug, I've been health secretary of Rajasthan when Corona struck, 2020, and we knew how difficult it was. So we didn't have APIs because the drugs were not available, because APIs were all in China. And gradually the industry from Gujarat has shrunk, and it was all in China. So that part of drug design, which normally takes years and cost about $1.8 to $2 billion on an average. If you use this AI, the cost can be shrunk, the time can be shrunk. You tell it the destination. What do you want to achieve out of that? And in reverse, it's design. And similarly, material science. There are matters which you want materials to be used, from electric vehicle batteries to chips to many of the other uses that we have. So you know that these are the properties of the material you want, but you don't know which material has it. So you input on that side, and it's called invert design, and it will tell you, which is the closest material that it will have that. So instead of that serendipity and striking lithium in Jammu and Kashmir and then getting happy over it and waiting for it to be dug out, this is a process which can be reversed and made faster. The design on the motherboard place components on the motherboard. That algorithm, that can also be designed in reverse. And many other things. There are hundreds and thousands of uses where this can be done. But how this is going to affect, there is this whole Web3 and 5G. 5G, of course, much to be desired, but we have seen some glimpses here and there. So I hope you told the TRAI chairman that consumers are not happy with what is happening on the service quality. So, so you have this Web3, you have virtual assets, you have augmented reality, extended reality, but it is not converging into something which is doing good to the society. I think the cryptocurrency thing, the virtual digital assets, the NFTs, all the countries are struggling to make a framework where governance could be effective. I attended a meeting in Geneva about 4 months back, and we had people from all the countries. And we put our heads together as to how do we deal with this. On the one side, there are the central banks of the country who control the monetary policy and the money. And then there are these currencies. I'm not talking digital currencies. I'm talking virtual currencies, cryptocurrencies. So I think G20 is doing a good job where they are sitting together and at least trying to build a governance framework on the virtual assets. Same is with metaverse. I think the retail experience is going to change phenomenally over the next 2 years. How you buy things, how you go, you can send your avatar with the, you can try the dresses and it can come back and tell you which one was good. That is all good, very fancy. But what happens to consumer protection? Even on normal internet, there is no identity layer. In metaverse, it's further diffused. There is no governance in metaverse. It's all through DAOs, decentralized organizations. So it sounds very good. It is disrupted. Nobody is in control. But when something goes wrong, like the FTX, when something goes wrong, when somebody's rights are infringed, when my intellectual property is infringed, when my digital avatar gets harassed in the virtual space, where do I go? Who do I complain to? So those are the challenges with which not only us, all the governments. So we are saying we don't want to control, we don't want to regulate, but at least if some person has this grievance, there has to be a mechanism of grievance redressal. I told you I'm just coming from a meeting with the Honorable Minister. Who was the other party in the meeting? Amazon. We told them, your algorithms, the way you throw results at people, they have to be fair. You can't have your own labels, you can't have the companies in which you have invested, appear on top of the search results. That is not fair. The whole consumer protection paradigm is about fair trading practices. You may be world's largest company, but the balance between the seller and the consumer, that equilibrium has to be maintained. If I'm searching for something on your e-marketplace, then there has to be fairness in terms of how it is displayed. And we told them, we gave them a piece of our mind that you cannot play with consumers on this. Similarly, there is a huge, I'm sure there will be talks in this 2-day thing on protection, data protection, privacy, and many other related issues. So, are you sharing my data when I buy stuff on Amazon with others without permission? Did I give my express consent? How do, when I search in Google for a shoe, the next thing on Facebook is a shoe advertisement? How is that happening? Who's responsible for that? Is the consumer I know it's good for the sellers, but as a consumer, it is very painful if my rights, information about me, about my choices, is being shared without my express consent. If I gave my consent, it's all good. If I didn't give my consent, you're not supposed to share it. So governance has its challenges, and I can see the representative from Baiju here, and we also called all the edtech companies. I said, boss, itna zyada advertise mat karo, bachchon pe pressure mat dalo. You are also responsible. Don't have a Shah Rukh Khan telling the moms that 2 tutors are better than 1 tutor. Get 2 for the price of 1. Thankfully, they agreed before we could proceed with a hard step. So I'm saying that in this rapid digital world with accelerated marketing, with huge exponentially rising stuff, information being bombarded, somebody has to protect the fragile consumer. The consumer has to be protected without becoming an impediment in the advancement of technology or in the ease of doing business. So, like everything else in life, my urge here is please do strike a balance between whatever you do, like we strike a balance between the wife and the mother and the relatives. So, strike a balance because the whole world is about balance. And if you tilt on one side, you are bound to fall or fail. Thank you very much. Do I sit there? Yeah, sure.
Firstly, thank you very much, sir. I think the much needed thoughts that we were really eagerly looking forward to. That being said, we do have room for 2 questions at least. So any questions from the audience? I'm going to request you to raise your hand. Yes, sir. We'll quickly pass the mic. I'm also going to request you to please share your name and your organization. Just introduce yourself before directing your question.
Hello. Hi, sir. This is Deep Shekhar from Network 18.
Oh.
I was curious because you said we search for something on Google and it appears on Facebook. Have you also had the experience of, I don't know, sometimes speaking on a call about shoes and then shoes appearing on your Facebook or Google? Because there's something on, I just...
Not yet, but I won't be surprised if I get that.
Thank you.
I think many of us have already gone through that, I'm guessing, but that being said, let's quickly move on to the next question as well. Any further questions? Yes, sir. We'll quickly pass the mic. Okay, we'll take your question, sir, and then we'll move on to you.
Good evening, sir. This is Abhishek. I'm from Jaipur as well. First of all, congratulations on your national highway stunt. Because today morning we came from the new highway and we actually saved 1 hour. I just wanted to ask one question, that how difficult it was to implement FASTag. I suppose you must be, during that time it was, the planning was started. So how difficult it was to the extent that in India the entire FASTag implementation has to be done. And how was that done? I know it's slightly outwards question, but still I would like to know, because this is actually, I feel, one of the best decisions that has been happened in last 20 years in India.
So we pushed, I started pushing for it, and so when you want to do something in the government, first you have to get a buy-in from the boss. Boss is cabinet minister. So we told them, we're going to do it. So they said, what is the benefit? So we said, a person is traveling at 100 kilometers an hour, and between Jaipur and Delhi, it's taking 4 hours, 5 hours. But at the toll plaza, he's spending 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So it'll save time. Then you design the whole thing. So there are many stakeholders. First, of course, is the users. Users, cars and commercial. Commercial is easy to handle. Fleet operators, that is easy to handle. Individual cars, difficult to handle because it's a diffuse database. Then the technology part, which is easy because you can quickly deploy technology. Banks, because this money, the banks will have to have a system where a person with an account or a wallet, this can be tied with that. The last but not the least is the people who run the highways. They are called concessionaires. We give them highways for 20 years because they invest money on the capital size. And there was some garbad because they are so used to the cash, and I don't know what they do with the cash. So we faced the most resistance in the highway operators. So we had to be tough. Like I told you about the Amazon story today. So we called them and Hindi mein samjhana pada ki isko to karna hai bhai. And then gradually, so, like, I don't know who's the South American poet who says, if you decide onto something, then sari kainat, इकट्ठी हो जाती है, वो हो जाता है फिर. So that's how we did it. But it's a great, I read a study from IIM Calcutta as to by having FASTag, how much money the economy has saved in terms of reduced times and how much pollution has reduced. Because when you are at the plaza, you're not stopping the engine. The engine is running and the pollution in those areas. So they measured it. And I'm very happy. So when I retire, maybe one of the chapters in my books will be on FASTag.
Yes, sir. And congratulations for it. It is one of the best decisions that has happened in India. Actually, we save time, but the almost 20 minutes, 30 minutes you save it on the tolls. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
On that note, we'll take one final question. Yes, sir. If you could just keep your hands raised.
Hi, sir. Yatharth here from Newman Tech. So my question is that, when you say that you don't want consumer rights to be, gone here and there, but that affects the sales of, all these people who are essentially the business owners and the, employers of a lot of people. And when their sales and when their profits go down, that can hit on the employment part and things like that. So as you say that, working at all stakes and, taking care of all the aspects. So how do you tackle that then? Because if the sales go down or if these people are not able to use these kind of marketings, as someone said, on call or something, I agree that that's wrong on some level. But if they are using that to increase their sales, it in turns increases the economy, increases employment, increases a lot of things. Obviously, it hacks the personal things. But yeah, how do you tackle it then?
So it's very easy. You first of all you have to engage with both kinds of stakeholders on the same table. That is my philosophy. So on the left side of my conference table is the industry, and on the right side is the consumer organizations. I'm also very conscious, because of the background that I have, that decision should not become an impediment in the ease of doing business. So we are very conscious of the fact that businessmen are so important to this country. I mean, you are the backbone of the economy. So like you said, if something goes wrong in a business, it is affecting employment, it is affecting the purchasing power of your people and many other people, and it is affecting the economy. So that is what the Prime Minister keeps telling us. Don't become an impediment of the guy who's doing good business, reasonable business. But if somebody wants to take us for a ride, if somebody wants to game the system, then of course we have to step in. I'll tell you what, I handle pulses. I don't know, so when you eat dal at home, just remember me this evening. I was in Mumbai day before yesterday, where we had the traders from all over. And some of the pulses, we produce 270 lakh tons of pulses in India, but we consume 290 lakhs, mota mota. So every year we have to import 20 lakh tons from tur dal from East Africa and Myanmar, to lentils, that is masoor from Canada, Australia, and then many other combinations. So I had all these people in a hotel in Mumbai day before yesterday where we were addressing them. And I came to know that evening, the previous evening, from Intelligence Bureau, that a lot of dal has come from Myanmar, but it is being held in various godowns in Chennai and other areas, and not being released in the market. So it used to be called hoarding in good old days. So in my speech, I just said 3-4 sentences that I know this is happening. If you don't release it, we'll be forced to take action. And we will not hesitate from taking action. That statement, it brought down the wholesale price by 2,000 rupees. So that is how you strike a balance. You sometimes, I don't know how many of you studied economics. I have not. Prices are not a function of demand and supply only. They're also a function of signaling, messaging, and we do that. We said, "Bhai, samhal jao, nahi to." So that is always a strategy, but only for the bad ones. The good ones, we are with you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round of applause to thank Shri, Rohit, Kumar Singh. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this evening.